Hello, child of God. Once again, this is CPA Shadrach Adino, an expert on wealth creation and management. I'm also a practicing auditor and a financial management consultant. Above all, I'm a born-again child of God and a pastor. Now, I take this opportunity, dear listener, to welcome you to today's episode with open arms. To our subscribers, we say a big thank you. You are making us what we are, and you are taking us to the next level. And to other viewers who have not subscribed, we encourage you to please subscribe. It is very simple to subscribe. Just go to YouTube channel, search for CPA Shadrach, and now click on that subscribe button. You will be a subscriber because that channel will turn into the word subscribed. Now, to be notified whenever we upload a new video, please just hit that notification bell and please kindly like this video. Now, we welcome you one more time to this continuing series. In our previous series, we were guiding business owners, managers, and employees on signs that show that fraud could be taking place in an organization. Now, if you can remember from our previous episode, we had reached symptom number 34, signal number 34, which was about high employee turnover rate as an indicator that fraud could be taking place in your organization. Because as we explained, there should be no reason why many employees should be leaving an organization. One of the reasons why there could be high employee turnover could be that they are facing pressure to cover up on fraudulent activities, or they could have committed fraudulent activities and therefore they are running away. Therefore, my friend, if you see there is high employee turnover in an organization, please raise up your antenna. Some fraud could be taking place in your organization. Now, for more information on the previous series that we covered, please, we urge you to visit that previous episode and find out details on red flags or indicators of fraud. Now, we want to go today straight away to symptom number 35, that fraud could be taking place in your organization. Now, number 35 says, unexpected overdrafts or declines in cash balances. There is no good reason why suddenly an organization should take an overdraft. There is no good reason why suddenly cash balances in an organization should decline. I'm not saying that is an automatic evidence of fraud. I'm only saying that one is an indicator or a symptom that fraudulent activities could be taking place. Therefore, don't take such occurrences for granted. Investigate and be satisfied that surely it was a normal sudden decline in cash balances and not a fraudulent one. Number 36 indicator that fraud could be taking place is refusal by company or division to use serial numbered documents. Cash receipts should have serial numbers. Vouchers should have serial numbers. But where you find in an organization, management or account staff refuse to use serial numbered documents, that's a very good indicator that somebody somewhere could be committing a fraud. How is it an indicator? For example, if you have issued receipt number 1, the next receipt should be receipt number 2, followed by receipt number 3. Now, when you miss receipt number 2, that could be money received and somebody misappropriated that money and tore off that receipt number. Now, where there are no serial numbers and somebody plucked off a certain receipt which had no serial number, you will never detect anything. So continuous refusal by a company or an organization to use serialized documents is a very good indicator that fraud could be taking place in that organization. Watch out for such kind of organization. Number 37, compensation program that is purely tied to results. Now, when you're compensating employees based on results, my friend, watch out. Why? Because some employees could be very shrewd, very cunning. They will decide to inflate results, expecting to be compensated. Therefore, when you have a program that compensates employees based on results, that could be a very good ground that some imaginary, fictitious results could be coming to your table for you to compensate them. Number 38, any financial transaction that doesn't make sense, either common or business sense. Now, when you're given a report, you are given financial transaction, and you try to make head or tail of this transaction and you cannot make it, my friend, watch out. Ask questions. Ask them questions so that you are given answers which can enable you to understand that kind of transaction. But don't give up on asking questions. Don't get satisfied without being satisfied, without being given a good explanation for such particular transaction. Ask until you understand. If you don't understand, reject it. Number 39, excessive photocopies or missing documents. My friend, a photocopy should not support any transaction. A transaction should only be supported by original documents. But where you are being given reports backed up with photocopies, you know the danger of photocopies is that a document can be used more than once to support a transaction. So a transaction was right, yes, but supported by an original document. But when you find a transaction being supported by photocopying and photocopying and photocopying, that could be an indicator that one document is being used to support many fictitious transactions. Therefore, when you see transactions being supported by numerous photocopies, that could be a symptom of fraud taking place in that organization. Number 40, borrowing money from coworkers. When you find a staff borrowing money from colleagues, that could be a sign that this person is living beyond his means. This person is a candidate for committing fraud to return borrowed money. So a staff borrowing money continuously from colleagues could be an indicator of fraud taking place, or somebody who is just about to commit fraud. Therefore, watch out for such a particular staff. Number 41, gambling beyond the ability to stand the loss. Gambling is very addictive. In fact, when you see a staff gambling, chances are that that staff will go into areas to get money to finance gambling, and the areas might be illegal areas, including committing a fraud in an organization. So I want to guide you. When you have a staff that is continuously engaged in gambling, my friend, be careful for such staff so that your hard-earned resources are not fraudulently taken away from you. Number 42, excessive drinking or other personal habits. When somebody is engaged in excessive drinking, or let me just generalize them, when somebody is engaged in addictive behaviors, one of them is drinking, another one is smoking, another one that we've just mentioned is gambling or infidelity, any kind of addictive behavior is a good signal or a pressure ground for somebody to commit fraud. Watch out for drunkard staffs. Watch out for smoking staff. Watch out for staff who are engaged in addictive behavior. Some of them could be tempted to engage in fraudulent activities. Number 43, easily annoyed at reasonable questioning. When you find a staff gets easily angered whenever they are asked genuine or reasonable questions, that could be an indicator that that staff might have committed fraud and is trying to cover up by being easily irritated. Now, I have an experience on such kind of staff. As an auditor, there's a time I questioned a staff, And this staff happened to be a member of a church. And the question was very simple, that my brother, if you are given this money, where is the bank deposit slips? Now this person got annoyed. He got irritated and started angrily shooting back questions at me. And he asked me questions like, you mean you don't trust me? You think I'm stealing? Why can't you trust me? I've said I received that money and banked it. The person was insisting that after receiving the money, he banked the money. But now something triggered my senses that this was a normal question, a very simple question, that if you've banked the money, produce the banking slip as evidence of banking. Now when that person became angry, I sensed that something wrong might have happened. Therefore, I insisted, but very calmly and politely, my brother, all I'm asking for is produce the bank deposit slip. And I was asking this question in a committee meeting. I insisted, my brother, produce the bank deposit slip. Unfortunately for this person, he bowed to pressure and the truth came out. He confessed that for sure I received the money, yes, and I had some financial pressure. I spent the money and I'm promising you people that I'm going to bank the money when I get the money. So that is also a sign to me that when somebody gets easily annoyed at reasonable questioning, that is a signal that the person might have committed fraud. Number 44, refusing promotions on transfer to a different location or department. My brother, my sister, you are a business owner, you are a manager. Transfer to different locations is normal. And more so when you transfer a hardworking employee, and let me say hardworking in quotes, and this person is refusing to go. You are promoting this person to a different location and is refusing to go. My friend, start an investigation. The person is there committing fraud and he wants to remain there to cover up his fraudulent activities. Insist on transfer, but investigate such kind of stuff. That could be a signal of fraud taking place. Number 45, presence of employee checks in the petty cash. Now, checks and balances in petty cash is very healthy. Where you fail to check, you are telling that petty cashier be taking money from the petty cash box. Some of the checks and balances that are encouraged in a petty cash environment or in an environment where people are handling cash is surprise cash count. Where there is surprise cash count, you are preventing fraud on petty cash. But where there is lack of checks and balances, where there is lack of surprise cash counts, you are encouraging that petty cashier to be fraudulently taking money from the petty cash kit. Number 46, excessive or unjustified cash transactions. In an environment where there is too much transaction being done in cash, my friend, cash is tempting. Somebody who is facing a financial problem at home and is handling money will easily be tempted to fraudulently take money from that box. And therefore, an environment where there is excessive cash transaction is an environment where you are encouraging fraudulent activities to take place. If you want to prevent this, minimize cash transaction to petty cash only, and other cash, let them be done through the bank account by checks or by direct bank transfers or by RTGM. Number 47, large amount of write-offs of accounts. For example, we have debtors, people who took things on credit, and then suddenly these people, instead of you seeing that they are paying money, you are seeing their accounts have write-offs, bad debt written off, bad debt written off. My friend, that is a signal that something wrong is taking place, because a debtor should always pay. A debtor should not have his account written off as bad debts. So when you see numerous transactions in form of write-off, that could be an indicator that fraud is taking place with the debt and the staff. Therefore, institute an investigation. Number 48, bank accounts that are not reconciled on a timely basis. Bank accounts are controlled by bank reconciliation being prepared on a monthly basis. But where you find bank accounts are not being reconciled, my friend, that could be a sign that there's some stuff somewhere that has committed fraud to do with the bank account, and therefore fear those fraudulent activities being unearthed. Therefore, they are failing to do bank reconciliation. If you want to institute a proper control touching on the bank accounts, my friend, I'm urging you, prepare bank reconciliation statements on a monthly basis. Number 49, red flags that show up on payroll. Where there are signs of problems in payroll, don't ignore those signs. Where you find gross salaries keep on fluctuating on payrolls, don't ignore those signs. Please find out what is the reason for fluctuation in this payroll. Investigate, why are we suddenly having gross salary increasing? Because if you ignore them, you could be facing fraud in payroll, yet you are not aware. Number 50, overtime charged during a slack period. Overtime is normal only when there is pressure of work. But during off-peak seasons, there is no justification for having an expense called overtime. But when you find an expense called overtime during off-peak season, that is a signal that there could be fraud happening on your salaries and wages account. Number 51, overtime charged for employees who normally would not have overtime wages. Normally, there are certain staff that you know for sure don't work overtime. There are certain management staff that you know for sure, even if they work extra time, they are not compensated with overtime. And yet suddenly you realize that such employees that ordinarily do not receive overtime pay, you have a charge against their name in account of overtime. Please find out why that inconsistency. Number 52, abnormal budget variations for payroll by cost centers. You have a budget on payroll. Probably according to your budget, you are supposed to pay a salaries and wages account of 1 million. But suddenly, you find that the actual expenditure is touching 1.5 million. A very abnormal variation, budget compared with actuals. Find out why there is a difference of that 500,000. There could be ghost workers that are being paid for without management approval. Number 53, employees with duplicate social security numbers, names, or addresses. That is a very important indicator that fraud is taking place on payroll. Usually, somebody is supposed to have only one number, the social security number. Usually, names should only appear once on payroll. Usually, postal addresses are supposed to appear only once. But when you find one of these being duplicated, my friend, raise your antennas. Some ghost workers could be on your payroll, or somebody somewhere could be fleecing you through payroll. So when you find duplication in form of payroll, please find out the reason for that duplication. Something wrong could be taking place. Number 54, employees with few or no payroll deductions. That is a very easy signal that something wrong is happening on the payroll. Because the normal way of managing salaries on payroll is that the salary has a basic, then maybe some allowances, then maybe the gross salary, followed with statutory deductions and other deductions, then the net pay. But when you find a payroll has a gross salary, then you end up with a net salary without deductions in between. There is a question mark on such kind of payroll. Why? Because genuine employees pay statutory deductions. Genuine employees pay as you earn. Genuine employees pay NSSF. Genuine employees pay National Hospital Insurance Fund. And these payments, for them to be properly returned to the government departments, they must have numbers. So where you have very few deductions or against somebody's name, where you find there are no statutory deductions against somebody's name, that is an indication that somebody somewhere is making games with their payroll. Find out why. Number 55, purchases that bypass the normal procedures. Organizations have a very good procedure on procurement activities. Some organizations insist on 3 quotations. Some organizations insist on open tendering system. Some organizations have various procedures for making procurement. But when you find certain purchases bypass the normal procedures, something wrong could be taking place with such purchases. My friend, I advise you, find out why. Number 56. Vendors without physical addresses. Normally, we do purchases from vendors which have physical addresses. But when you find a document of procurement has a vendor's name and there's no physical address on this vendor's name, my friend, that could be a fictitious purchase, or that could be a procurement from an insider, or that could be a problem. My friend, find out why that vendor has no physical address. Insist on knowing whether that procurement is genuine or not genuine. Number 57, vendor addresses matching employee addresses. When a vendor's address on that document is the same as your employee's address, chances are high that you're doing procurement from your employee. And whenever you do procurement from your employee, that person is conflicted, chances are that you will not get value for money. My friend, dig into that procurement which is made from a vendor whose address is the same as your employee's address. Number 58, excess inventory. When you have inventory excess of your requirements, my friend, I'm telling you, somebody somewhere is making business with yourself. Yes. Maybe it is an employee, or maybe it is a conflicted employee. He is forever procuring goods. He is forever making purchases. That's why you have inventory that you don't need, because the person could be making profits from that procurement. So when you find yourself having inventory in excess of your requirement, my friend, make an inquiry. The source of this inventory. Find out the reason behind this oversupply of inventory into your organization. Somebody could be committing a fraud against your hard-earned resources. Number 59, purchasing agents that pick up vendor payments rather than have it mailed. When you have a purchasing agent picking payments that you are making to the vendors, my friend, watch out. Something fishy could be taking place. You could be shortchanged in the process of you making procurements. Maybe that agent that is picking payments could be diverting those payments to himself. Therefore, a good control against such kind of fraudulent activities is have those payments mailed or have those payments made through a direct banking transaction, an EFT or RTGS system direct to the supplier. Instead of having those payments being picked by an agent, you will be controlling or safeguarding against a fraudulent activity. Number 60. Symptom number 60 that fraud could be taking place against your organization is bragging about significant new purchases. When you find a staff is bragging on what is being purchased, I fail to understand why a staff should brag. You are doing normal procurements. Why should a staff brag about those new purchases? Probably a staff, that particular staff who is bragging, has an interest on that purchase. Because you are doing your normal work. Why should you brag? But when you find that staff bragging about new purchases, find out the source of those supply, the reason for those purchases. you could be going through a fraudulent activity if you are not careful. Number 61, carrying unusually large sums of money in cash. My friend, money carried in cash is very risky. The major reason why it is very risky is that cash is very tempting. So when you find somebody walking with large sums of money in cash, chances are that that person could have committed a fraud, and the fraud is the source of him carrying large sums of money in cash. Therefore, if you see a staff carrying money in cash, don't take it for granted. Find out details. Find out reasons why this cash is being carried the way it is being carried. You could be losing money in form of cash. Number 62, excessive number of returns of goods. Goods should not usually be returned. But when you find goods are being returned, chances are that the sales that were made were fictitious sales. Probably it happens where staff are being compensated for high sales. So they could be making fictitious sales and then returning these sales in terms of goods returned. So when you find there's several goods being returned, please investigate those goods, investigate the sales that were first of all made, which is now resulting into goods being returned. Some fraud could have taken place earlier. If you do that, my friend, you'll be saving yourself of a lot of fraud. My friend, I want to stop there. And I want to thank you from the depth of my heart, dear listener, for taking your time to listen to this presentation. I want to encourage you. Rewind this video. Listen to it over and over again. Acquire this knowledge. You will be preventing a lot of fraud from being committed in your organization, and therefore you will be assured that your hard-earned resources will be maximized in terms of profits, and that business will be assured of growth. Do not take for granted these signals. Do not take for granted these symptoms. We are bringing them to you to make you prevent yourself from incurring losses due to fraudulent activities. I want to say thank you, dear listener. And in conclusion, I want to urge you, please, if you've not subscribed to this channel, please subscribe. Hit that subscribe button. Please turn on that notification bell. And then please just like this video. More of such educative material will continue coming your way. Therefore, as I conclude, I pray, may God Almighty bless you and may you be prosperous in this year. In Jesus' name, amen.